December 1846. So think about how cold it is this morning. It's pretty cold, right? Imagine being on the Oregon Trail.
Where is the Oregon Trail?
I would need snow pants.
Where is the Oregon Trail?
In the Sierra Nevada. Truckee Lake, now called Donner Lake, eastern slopes of the Sierra Nevada. 2 more Teamsters died yesterday, Zeke said. How long do you think before help arrives? Stanton looked glum. Maybe not until late spring. No one at Sutter's Fort even knows we're stuck at Truckee Lake. When I left the fort, Captain Sutter said I'd probably find you camped for winter at a lower elevation, and Reed thought you'd have Patrick Breen's whole herd for meat and milk. Zeke stared at him in dismay. I wish. Someone has to get through to the fort. We have to tell Captain Sutter that people are dying here. No point trying, son. We've already sent 4 teams, but they haven't been able to cross the mountains. Frustration filled him. What on earth could he do? The deep snow made walking impossible. Just then, Lewis, one of the Miwok Indians, walked across the snow toward them. Zeke stared amazed at the 2-foot-long contraptions under his feet. Wow, look at that, Stanton nodded. Snowshoes. The Indians used them. Lewis built the frames using wood from the oxbows and made lattice coverings out of oxhide strips. They're great. For the first time in what seemed like forever, Zeke felt a ray of hope. With those, we can cross the mountain. It's not easy to walk in those, Stanton cautioned. I'm not sure how far you'd get. They take a lot of energy. You'd have to be strong and healthy. Zeke grinned. Let's start making them. 17 people, mostly teens and young adults, volunteered to construct snowshoes and attempt the crossing. Weak with starvation, but buoyed by hope, they persuaded Mr. Breen to donate one of his remaining rawhides and spent a week furiously making snowshoes. Thrilled, Zeke found he could struggle across the snow and not sink right into it. Okay, mule, he told the mule. You ready to walk to Sutter's Fort? We'll bring back food and a rescue party, and we'll get everyone out of here. Let's do this, the mule said. Mrs. Reed handed Zeke one of James Reed's hunting knives. I want you to have this, son. With tears in her eyes, she then pressed a small cloth-wrapped ball into his hand. A treat. Save it for Christmas. Thank you. I'll open it after I've gathered a rescue party at Sutter's Fort. Zeke buried the gift deep in his pocket and grasped the knife's bone handle firmly. On the 16th of December, 10 men and 5 women, the strongest members of the Donner Party, headed for the Sierra Nevada summit. Most were in their teens and 20s. Zeke, Lemuel, and Mary Ann were among the teenagers. Lemuel's brother, 10-year-old Billy, had no snowshoes but insisted on going too. Mary Ann named the group the Forlorn Hope. You could have chosen a better name, Zeke commented. Maybe something a little more optimistic? Come on, Mule, Zeke joked, watching Lemuel and Mary Ann struggle to walk on the snowshoes. Don't be a slowpoke. Lemuel prodded him with his hiking stick and laughed. They were on their way. It felt good to be doing something useful at last. Before leaving, the Donner Party members had pooled together enough rations to feed the Forlorn Hope for 6 days. Stanton said it would take less than that to reach Sutter's Fort. As long as the snow held off, they'd make it. Balancing awkwardly on snowshoes, lifting and thumping down his feet, he pushed on, fell, and even crawled. Wet, cold, freezing, deep snow covered the trail past yawning chasms, dizzy precipices, and deep canyons. Only one thing mattered: getting to Sutter's Fort. A pale sun reflected on the snow and hurt his eyes. Stanton had warned about snow blindness. Zeke half closed his lids and pulled down the broad brim of his hat. Let's talk about snow blindness for a second. Have you ever been outside and felt like it was so bright outside because of the snow? That you have to close your eyes.
Yes.
Because the sun shines down on the snow and then it reflects off the snow because snow is crystals, right? And ice. And it reflects off the snow and it goes right into your eyes. So snow blindness was a real problem that they faced trying to get anywhere.
Whenever I went inside after being outside in the snow, I would always feel that when I go inside it would be so dark.
Mm-hmm.
I could barely even see anything.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm. Lydia?
I was gonna say, you can also get snowburn. You can get sunburn, you can also get snowburn.
Yes.
The sun reflecting off the snow, you can get burns.
Yeah. So it's like a sunburn, but like reflected off the snow. Yeah. That first night, wrapped in blankets, he, Lemuel, Marianne, and Billy boiled small strips of beef to make soup. Already weak from months of hunger, they passed around a little pot and took slow sips. Nearby, Zeke could see the other Forlorn Hope members shivering over fires too. Mary sighed. We've trekked for 10 hours, but we haven't gotten very far, maybe 3 or 4 miles. My legs feel broken, Lemuel said. It's hard to walk on these heavy things, Zeke said, but we'll get used to them. Little Billy piped up, looking scared and exhausted. I'm going back. You can't, Lemuel told his brother. You'll get lost. All night, a ferocious gale roared. The next morning, it still raged, buffeting Zeke, trying to push him back down the mountain. Ahead, the Sierra Nevada summit, a 7,200-foot-high mountain peak, loomed. Fat snowflakes fell. Silent, merciless. We still have to climb that peak, Marianne croaked through dry lips. Her long, dark hair hung in icicles. Look at us. We can barely walk. Put one foot in front of the other, Zeke said. To stop is to die. We have to go on. Even on snowshoes, Lemuel tried to move with his usual swagger, but his eyes betrayed him. Zeke knew that, like himself, Lemuel was afraid. They struggled upward. My little brother's gone, Lemuel said. Billy's gone? What do you mean? Zeke said. Last night, he snuck off back the way he came with one of the teamsters. If he gets lost, Ma will kill me. Marianne's voice cracked. We're all lost anyway. Even the Indian guides are lost. Zeke looked around desperately. In the haze of falling snowflakes, all the snow-covered peaks looked the same. What if they never got out of this terrible maze? What if they couldn't find their way back, forward or back? Keep moving, he said. If we don't, everyone back at the lake will starve. He thought of all those people he knew. Well, children he knew well, children and adults starving at Truckee Lake, and he shuddered. At least 60 people had pinned their hopes on Zeke's party getting through the pass. Could they cross the Sierra Nevada? Maybe, maybe not. How long could they keep going? The slippery mountains were smothered with snow, and still it drifted down. As darkness fell, the temperature plummeted. The slope grew steeper, the sky blacker, and they were forced to stop. Zeke trembled with hunger. They had nothing left to eat. He rummaged in his pack, found the flint, and managed to set fire to the brittle top of a dead pine poking out of the snow. They all collapsed around the flames. Happy Christmas Eve, Zeke said. Santa's reindeer would be a welcome sight. Marianne shot him a smile that reminded him of better days. Would you rather eat Dasher or Dancer? She said through blue lips. Yeah, Zeke said. Roast venison. Yum. We're all going to die unless we eat something real soon, grunted Foster, one of the family leaders. His bushy hair rose straight up from his head, making him look like a crazed scientist. An Irish teamster doubled over. Won't be long before one of us drops dead. When they do, the others should eat the body. Zeke and Marianne exchanged nervous glances. Welcome to the Sierra Nevada dining room, Lemuel muttered. Meat's on the menu again. The burly Foster scanned the group. Could be days before someone keels over. That'll be too late for us all. I say we draw sticks and eat the loser. The group, as skinny as skeletons, stared at him with frightened eyes. Horrified, Zeke shook his head. No, we shouldn't do that. Keep quiet, you lunatic, Lemuel muttered. Next thing, he'll eat you. Cold, clammy fear crept down Zeke's spine. From the hungry look in Foster's wolf-like eyes, it was clear something terrible was going to happen, and it was going to happen soon. He wished with all his heart he'd never joined the Donner Party.